We're here in Liverpool today to lift the lid on the manipulative marketing techniques used by junk food companies.
Advertisement works. That's why the food industry spends billions of pounds in their marketing campaigns every year. But how come healthy food doesn't get the same spotlight?
We are going to speak to researchers at Liverpool University about the dangers and also the impact of junk food marketing on young people.
Hi, I'm Emma. I'm a professor of psychology at the University of Liverpool, and I study what people eat, why they eat, how much they eat, and particularly what the food environment does to change all of that.
What do we mean by advertising? Does it really have an impact on what we eat and drink?
It really does. So advertising is one way that companies can promote their brands and products to us, so they can tell us what they're selling, and they do it in a really persuasive and engaging way so that we get distracted by it, we want to look at it and watch it, and it makes us more likely to crave products, it makes us more likely to want to buy them, to consume them, and it's a problem now because there's so much advertising and it tends to be for the less healthy things that we shouldn't eat very much of or drink very much of.
I'm studying food marketing on video game live streaming platforms. So platforms like Twitch, YouTube gaming, Facebook gaming, and then also part-time I do some teaching within psychology, so statistics, that kind of thing.
As a young person, am I being exploited by advertisers?
I'd say the quick answer is yes. So to be able to resist advertising, you have to first know it's there, and then also understand some of the intent behind it. So what food advertisers try and do is they try and sort of make it less identifiable, and also the motive behind it less noticeable. So you might have noticed, so say if I use an example from my research, so video game live streaming platforms, someone might be playing a game and they might be drinking Red Bull as they're playing, and you think, okay, that's quite natural, they're just drinking it as they're playing, but that could be an example of product placement of that specific energy drink. Or for example, in a game, you might see a little billboard ad for food, that kind of thing. I don't know if any of you notice this in any gaming content you use.
I think you see it quite a lot. I think it's you don't see it as much until you know that you realise that you've been told that it's been put there.
Yeah.
Especially in films and games where you see car adverts, but on video games, I think it turns out a lot more in food. I think you notice it quite a bit. Yeah. Do you think that food companies deliberately target live streaming platforms like Twitch or YouTube because they know that these big influencers have a very young fan base?
Yeah, I think so. So I think they're trying to tap into that young fan base and then also gamer culture as well. So you might notice that some of the foods marketed are things like crisps and also fast food that you can really eat whilst you're gaming, and then things like energy drinks like gamer fuel. Even in the title itself, it's you drink this and it fuels you for your gaming sessions. So yeah, I think that's happening to young people, and then also that specific gamer community as well.
I look into how the out-of-home food environment influences obesity. One thing is advertising, but then also, fast food takeaways, all the food that's available now out of home.
Who are some of the biggest spenders and how much money are we talking about? And how does this compare with money being spent on healthy food advertising?
You guys can probably share your experiences on this, because I think the biggest spenders are going to be quite obvious to you. Who do you see the most when you see advertising? Who are the ones that sort of stand out to you?
McDonald's.
Yeah, I mean that's the big one. So for example, if we're talking about how much money is spent, McDonald's in 2019 spent over 150 million just on advertising. In terms of the advertising that we see, healthy food is a lot less advertised, right? I mean, can you think of any healthy food advertising you've seen recently? It doesn't stick out in the same way, right?
So what are some of the tactics that food and drinks companies use in advertising?
So we have classic things like jingles that are really catchy to us. They try to resonate with people. We've also got a lot of characters that are prominent from films or just from the brands themselves that are brought up on time and time again, like Tony the Tiger for Frosties. And
Batman.
yeah, exactly, the M&Ms, like, it's a big one. And people sort of form relationships with these brands, and these characters and everything sort of becomes more than just the food in their mind.
Do you think it's right that these companies make these characters and personalities, especially ones that like often, you know, they appeal to young people? Do you think it's right that they're allowed to make decisions like that to try and influence people?
I think it becomes clear that the tactics are specific, that they seem specifically for children or young people, right? I mean, they're not creating sort of characters and cartoons for adults to increase their interest. So I think it's definitely a form of targeting young people, and as we spoke about before, the exploitation of young people. Yeah, it definitely comes down to that.
How can we show other young people how junk food brands are exploiting our health?
I think it is really important that it comes from young people, because at the end of the day, other young people want to listen to you. They don't really want to, it won't be the same coming from adults. But I've seen bite back campaigns before, and they can be really quite far reaching, and it is powerful coming from young people, and it's nice that young people can stand up and make a stand about their health and how they feel like it's not easy to be healthy these days. You're constantly bombarded.
I'm studying the extent to which advertising in the environment can affect your behaviour and your food consumption and your purchases.
When you have to think about advertising from fast food and junk food companies, what are some of the most shocking examples you can think of?
What I would consider shocking is the extent to which these companies are predatory and they target young children specifically. So one big example of that would be, there's a YouTuber, and this channel is dedicated to children's toy reviews. This channel has over 53 billion views, over 34 million subscribers, and there is a series of collaborations with McDonald's, wherein this child was provided toys such as a McDonald's cashier, a Big Mac, the ability to play with Play-Doh to make McDonald's foods. And in total, these videos have gathered over 240 million views. So if you consider, what do we associate McDonald's with, especially Happy Meals? Toys. So to that extent, it's these collaborations with influencers are specifically targeting not just children, but young children in particular. And I just think how many children were then subsequently influenced to go ahead and eat a McDonald's Happy Meal following that.
Have you heard mukbangs where people will just eat terrible food? It's like basically endorsing it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And making more kids to try to do the same, but it's like terrible for you.
So my understanding of that subgenre of YouTube is that people will sit there and they will eat exorbitant amounts of food.
Like fast food probably.
And a lot of the times they will be paid advertisements. So there might be somebody has to eat 20 Domino's pizzas, or just eat a whole array of KFC. So you can see that this is where it's being influenced, not overtly, but it's subliminal, where you're not being expressively told that it's advertising, and it's almost like the content itself is advertising. So what you'll probably find is, because of those videos, because they are very outrageous in their nature, they get a lot of attention, they get a lot of likes and a lot of comments, and because of the YouTube algorithm, that therefore pushes it up in the rankings, so you'll actually get exposed to that more often, depending on how extraordinary it is.
Yeah, it's really sad. But so with junk food companies going into schools, have you seen a lot of that? Because speaking from like personal experience, it is like it's disheartening to walk into like a school canteen and you see a World Cup advertisement and there's a giant Coca-Cola sponsorship on it.
Yeah, there was a study done relatively recently where they looked at schools, and in particular the area surrounding schools, and they looked at like fast food advertising in bus stops, on billboards, and what they found was that there was actually a higher concentration of fast food around schools. And in my own experience around Liverpool as well, there are more fast food restaurants and establishments around schools. So a lot of the times when I was growing up, the first thing we do after we finished school is that we'd walk down the street to the bus stop, and there would be a McDonald's, a Burger King, and that's where people would go after school to have a snack. They were not being offered those healthy alternatives.
It's quite tragic.
Mm.
Yeah.
As a young person, is there any ways to get involved, for example, through an MP?
So there's a number of ways that you can get involved. So you yourselves, you've joined Bite Back, which is an organisation which is advocating for your rights as a young person to lead a healthy, balanced diet. That's one way you can get involved. You can get involved by participating in research. Research is really important because when we go to Parliament and when we go to your MP, you need an evidence base to say that this is occurring, and you also need an evidence base to show how we can improve. So participating in research is really important as well. And as you said, if you are passionate about this, you can write to your MP. You can say, this is what we as young people want to see happen. So I think there's a lot of ways that young people can get involved.
There you have it. Giant food companies are spending huge sums of money into manipulating us into buying their products.
The next time you see junk food advertisement, see if you can recognise some of the tactics we've uncovered today.
Right now, the health of 1 in 3 children is at risk from diet-related disease. We think it's time to put healthy food in the spotlight. We need to make huge changes to the world around us to make sure that we put our health first.